Country. That's what we're asking everybody to do all around the world, to get their smoke on. Tell your friends to jam out. Tune in to American Freedom Radio every Tuesday, Thursday, and check out all of our wonderful guests here at Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. My guest, Michelle Rainey. I tell you, Michelle, you have looked so much trouble in the eye and spit back. It's amazing. You must have had quite a weird little feeling in your stomach when you were suddenly arrested and hauled off into jail with Mark Emery and a gentleman by the name of Greg Williams.
Casper, I have never been so afraid in my entire life. My goodness, to all of a sudden hear that the DEA has come up from your country to grab Mark, myself, and Greg was just mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling.
Seriously, what did you think? Did you feel like running? Did you feel like getting a lawyer and hiding in their office, going to a church and declaring sanctuary? What did you think of at that moment when you discovered it?
I thought of my staff, and I thought about Mark. Mark was back east in Nova Scotia at the time. He was actually having lunch. And I heard my store was being raided. Mark and I both owned the BC Marijuana Party bookstore together at the time in 2005. And I was terrified about my staff, terrified that they, of course, were going to be arrested and hauled off. I had no idea the implications at that moment, except that I knew that poop had hit the fan big time.
You're not kidding. My gosh. And
and at that moment, about an hour into the whole process of everybody being arrested and the store being all taped up, I was not right in downtown Vancouver at that moment. I was out of the city. And the DEA phoned me on my cell phone and said, Michelle, we'd like to talk to you. And I said, I know. Of course, I know. And I turned.
It's gotten out, right?
Oh, it had, big time, big time. And at that moment, it took me a couple of hours, but I turned myself in peacefully to the police station. My husband dropped me off, gave him a great big hug and a great big kiss, and I said, you get me the hell out of here tonight. Please, whatever you have to do, you get me out, because it was going to be a long weekend in British Columbia, and there was no way on a Friday that I want to spend 3 days in a jail with no medical marijuana and chronic diarrhea. And I didn't think that those sheriffs wanted to clean up after me either, for that matter, all right? So, thankfully, my staff and my husband, and I will always thank them for the rest of my life, were able to get me out. And I got out about 8 o'clock that evening. Mark was still left in Nova Scotia. There was nothing we could do at that point because he was back east. I mean, he was a 5-6 hour plane ride away from us.
Okay.
So it was just devastating. And Greg was under lockup, and we couldn't get him out at that point. They allowed me because of my illness, but I had to pay a high bail. Come up with $30,000, kid, or we're not letting you out. So
wow.
It was at that moment. You know, we found all the money. We were about to publish Cannabis Culture Magazine, one of the editions. Obviously, that edition was delayed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was absolute terror. I wasn't allowed into my store for a week. I had to, of course, try and deal with Mark and get him home and get Greg out. It was absolute pandemonium. But at the same time, you have to keep a level head.
Now, ultimately, you met face-to-face with our American head of the DEA, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
That must have been rather interesting, because even a lot of Americans don't get that unique privilege.
No, and I don't think you really want to have that privilege, honestly. Unless, of course...
What was that meeting about, and what was it like?
Well, I had no defense. Let's face it, we were very transparent on everything we did. And Redirect Seeds provided a vehicle for cannabis activism, and Mark Emery was extremely generous with his money when it came to Global Marijuana March, legal fees, you know, anything that he could fund that would help end this war, he did. But at the same time, The DEA, the U.S. government, John Walters, who had come up to Canada for a visit, was extremely angry, just angry with the progress we had made and with Mark. But, of course, Mark was the focal point and always has been. And, obviously, someone had to be doing all the work, which I was.
Okay.
And that was duly noted, that I had run the seed business, run the political party, taken care of staff, paid bills while he was out vocalizing. And that made sense. You know, he did a whole freedom tour. He did smoke-out tours all over Canada.
I understand. Your job is like mine with Jags. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and, of course, I was behind the scenes making sure that all the wheels were turning and everything was taken care of. It was 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. But when the DEA came in, we lost that. We lost the seed business, but we did not lose our passion. We did not lose our courage or our conviction to end cannabis prohibition. Now, I will say that in 2007, after 2 years of going to court every month and getting delay, I got fed up. And I went to my lawyer and I said, I'd like you to start negotiating. I want to know what the district attorney wants from me because I need to deal with this. I need to take personal responsibility because our country cannot afford going to court continuously. It's a drain on tax-paying dollars. And at that time, the district attorney had said they only wanted 6 months in jail. But at the beginning in 2005, they wanted 30 years. So I had lived with 2 years of delays and possibly going to jail for the rest of my life in my eyes because I'd die in jail. That's the way I looked at it. There was just no way I was going to survive in a U.S. jail.